Welcome everybody to another episode here of the Verified Carrier podcast. We have a special episode with a few more guests than usual. As you know, and if you've been following along, we analyze the supply chain. We try to look at what's happening to try to understand fraud and what to do about it from different vantage points. So today we are looking at the element of the load board. So we'll discuss what that is, what's kind of seen here from a major player of the industry. And I'll go ahead and let everybody introduce themselves, and then we'll kick it off.
Hey, I'm
Rob?
Rob. I'm the VP of Biz Dev and Partnerships from Verified Carrier.
And I'm Sean Rasmore, Principal Product Manager for Compliance at Truckstop.
And I'm Nate Ivey. I'm the Senior Manager of Partnerships and Alliances here at Truckstop.com.
All right. Well, good stuff. Everybody, thanks for jumping on. We're excited to have you. And I just wanted to kind of hear a little bit about Sean, Nate. How did you guys, before we jump into what you guys do, how did you end up in your roles? What's kind of the background of what got you here? Nate, if you want to kick off.
Oh man, what's the background of how I got here? I actually started in telecommunications. There were some mutual synergies from a SaaS perspective. So started out as a business account manager back in 2018 with Truckstop. And from there, I just grew to really love partnerships and everything involved. Luckily, I've been privileged with the role I'm currently in, leading the partnerships out.
Yeah, good stuff. What about you, Sean?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, prior to Truckstop, I was with Hewlett Packard for almost 18 years and had a colleague who left a Truckstop, which I thought she left to a Truckstop, not to Truckstop.com. And then I learned about what they do. And that was my first instance of this industry. You see the trucks going down the road. You don't know what all is behind how those trucks are placed on the road and what they're doing out there. And so I've been with Truckstop for a little over 9 years now, various roles. But for the last 3 years, I've been in the fraud, risk, and compliance space. And it's been great. I've applied some of the enterprise and I have Six Sigma background mentality to the problems that we're trying to solve in this industry and taking that into what we're doing here. But it's been great with working with Truckstop and all the things they do and just really helping this industry, and excited to talk about the things that we're seeing and doing here with you all.
Yeah, and Rob, what about you? Care to share a little bit about what it takes to get you here?
In logistics in general. Well, I mean, I got started in logistics in general because I was a history major, and I realized that history teachers don't make a lot of money, but all empires were built on logistics. The Mongols, or they were stopped on the logistics, or Napoleon invaded Russia, it was stopped due to their supply chain. So I said, hey, you're always going to get something from point A to point B. Big empires were built and they fell from this. And so this is a great industry to get into. So I started at TQL and then worked my way through to eventually get to Verified Carrier.
Good stuff. Actually reminds me of a quote. I think it was the amateurs, in war, the amateurs debate tactics, but the experts debate logistics.
Exactly. I think that was a Napoleon quote. I like that one too.
For a little guy, he did some big things. I'm just kidding. He was not that little. It was actually a conversion error. Yeah. But speaking of logistics, speaking of load boards, I think a lot of people are familiar with what you guys do. But for those that aren't, I know that every time I hear about people, like we got the silver bullet to fix all fraud because all you have to do is this. And you're like, I think a lot of people just don't understand the complexity of like what it takes for, a carrot to get plucked from the ground. And when it ends up at your local Walmart, Fred Meyer's, Publix, whatever your chain is near you, like the level of complexity and the amount of hands that get traded and the actual agreements, whether it's like the legal side or just industry practice, all the stuff that happens. So you guys play a major role. So just kind of want to see if you could expand on what that is. Like what do you guys do? What's the value that you offer to the industry?
Yeah, Sean, do you want to take that one from a fraud perspective?
Yeah, from a fraud perspective, I'll talk about this the overall.
Let's say just in general, like what is a load board? Like what do you guys do in the industry?
Well, yeah, if we talk about load board specifically, and then there's what we have behind that, what we've been doing for decades here. Truckstop, we just celebrated our 30th anniversary last July. Been doing this for quite a while, and actually early on within uh, the life of the company, they learned that fraud, risk, confidence was critical to the industry, and they established an assurance and security team. And what it was we started with, what the load board was, is a freight marketplace, a place where brokers, those who have loads that they need to haul, they do not have a truck assigned to it already, being able to put those out in the marketplace for those with trucks, the carriers are able to find them. And so think of it as a matchmaking place. And it was our founder saw a need. He was and there's this. It's become now almost a myth, but it's true. He's driving through Nevada, a truck on the side of the road, like need a load, call 1-800 whatever. And he's like, what is that? And now he was an engineer, but had this vast background. And he's like, there has to be a better way for these truck drivers to find freight, looking for that backhaul, so they're not. You drive empty, you're driving on your dime. And so he started researching that, found that okay, the way loads were made available or visible to truck drivers and carriers were at these truck stops on a bulletin board, on a TV monitor. He's like, okay, well, the internet was new back then. We could put that all on the internet. So we created this, the load board. We were the first internet load board, putting that all on the web. And through that, though, it wasn't just making people hear load board, they think public load board. It's like publicly available, but you have to be verified. And like, it's not just letting anyone come walk down by a bulletin board and pulling a tab off of a ticket there. It's like, no, you need to go through that process. Now, some things that were learned early on verifying who should be allowed to participate in this, both from the carrier as well as brokers, shippers, whoever is posting that freight, to make sure it is authentic, because those bad loads could be posted and bad carriers could be pulling. And so within that, there was a lot of security elements, but also one of the critical things, not just for what we do, but just as an industry is necessary, is people, processes, and the technology. He established this assurance team, security team, that was behind the scenes, continuously monitoring, evaluating who was coming in, when they were made aware of bad actors, suspicious actors, people who should not be here, getting them out, capturing that information, and preventing reaccess, because they found that, oh, these bad actors will disappear, they'll lose their authority because of safety, and they'll reemerge as a new carrier. And so there's things that they were putting in place around protecting the integrity of that. And so when you're talking to somebody, you can have confidence in a load board. So that load board, though, it's a critical place for those truck drivers, because you work with a broker, you get a load to deliver, you may not have that load to get out. And so being able to go and look at that load board, and then helping you establish relationships, and same thing with those brokers, helping you with that freight. So that's where we started, and then through the years evolved, adding other solutions, because part of that, you find that load, okay, is that a good price for that load or not? From as a broker posting it, what is a good market rate? As a carrier who, especially your owner operator, your primary goal is get from point A to point B to home. Like, you're just going to keep running. Like, is this a good price on this, and a good rate per mile? And so we offer services for rates, and we have factoring, because when you deliver that load, you don't get paid when that load is delivered. It's going to be scheduled out, but you need to pay for your fuel, maintenance, whatever. Especially serving the owner operator, serving the small truck driver has been a big focus, because they don't have logistics departments. They have a spouse that rides in the cab with them. And I recommend to anybody out there wanting to know about what we do, go onto YouTube and search Truckstop Vision Video. It was something that before AI became part of all of the things we do, we were using AI and assistance as in this vision where we want to go, and that's actually still part of what we're looking to do. But
Sean, if you want to share the link, I could actually, when this gets posted, throw that out there so people can just click on the link.
Yeah, no, that'll be Great. Yeah, we'll post that in there because it hits home on what is most important, and it's the family. These families that are out there, their businesses are on the front side, but the families are on the back side, and who you want to go and help them. And same with the brokers, having confidence and who you're like building, establishing relationships, but being able to trust who you're working with. So it's performance, safety, and fraud. And one of the things from I see 4 vectors of risk. Again, you got, are they going to be able to perform? Are they safe in this? Are they who they say they are? The identity, and there's financial risks in this as well. You're trying to manage all these pieces and using different tools for that. But for us, it's providing a place where you can trust who you're operating with, coming in, having the confidence around that, and so started in those areas, the freight side of this, and then into the compliance and other vectors of the transportation lifecycle. So for us, it's offering solutions for the different entities operating within the industry, again, across carriers, brokers, shippers of various sizes. And we don't need to solve all your needs. We want to be there to help you. And for me, I tell people, it's like, love it if you use our tools, but you need to have tools. You need to reinforce what you do with technology, especially when it comes into a fraud and risk perspective. And we'll talk more about that a little later. But invest in your people first and establish processes and then power that with technology. So long answer to your question there, but Nate, I don't know if you have anything to add.
I'll just add quickly. We really are a freight marketplace. We could be considered a one-stop shop if you did want to, put all your eggs in one basket. But we also understand that we're nothing without partners as well. So, and this is why I'm really excited to continue partnering with Verified Carrier. Because just with our launch the last couple of days as well, just the feedback's been super positive because this is a step in the right direction. We can kind of get into the fraud stuff a little bit later, but this is us getting that 1% better that we're all striving for every day. And this really allows us to move that needle.
Yeah. And speaking of fraud, just speaking to different people, different experts, I look at it like banking. Banking was hit when the internet rolled out. It's super cool that you don't have to go, write a check or go in and buy another checkbook or like do everything manually and wait, behind 12 different people for a teller. That we could do all this stuff. It started with, the PC, then moved to the mobile apps, mobile browser versions, which sucked, a lot of them. Then we moved to apps, and now you could DocuSign, put your thumbprint and open an app and pay for all this stuff. So it's great, but that created a lot of opportunity, as we were getting to this point for fraud, and banking got way better at it, right? Some of it's annoying, and multi-factor authentication had to come in and all this different stuff. Logistics is way behind. So you have like mega enterprises who are using data scientists for behavioral analysis and forensics. And then you have people literally sitting with sticky notes, booking freight and just calling up people and working off a Rolodex. So really easy to just jump in there and just start taking advantage of these, I call them fissures in between, the disparity and the fragmentation of our industry. And with COVID, it just accelerated. So I just want to see with you guys and the load board, being like a digital marketplace, what's your guys' experience been like? How's, you look at the CargoNet numbers of how it's exploded. We recently had a call with the FBI, just, all the cyber elements of what they're doing. Like it's beyond just buying an MC. It's beyond just stealing a password. Like it's becoming really sophisticated. So I want to see, like, from your guys' perspective, what have you guys been seeing? And then kind of what has Truckstop been doing about it?
So one thing, I'm going to go back to a comment you made earlier about silver bullets. I look at this as, for anyone who's watched The Matrix, the bad actors are Neo. They see things, they know things. The bullet time, they're able to move so quickly to adjust and adapt and avoid detections. The this industry, one of the things when I first joined, and I was told it is ripe for digitalization, and it is. It is very ripe for that. Bad actors got there first. They have automated and digitalized their processes. This is a business for these pirates of the expressway. They're out there. You have some of them are opportunists, but you have a lot of them are being employed by foreign entities, and it is highly profitable. And as the industry has been going hard to automate and streamline processes to take human intervention out, you've now made it extremely easy for those who, you talk about the fissures in the system, they see these gaps, they can exploit your automations. Because you think of autonomous vehicle where people are, I'm just going to go to sleep. Like, you still need to be watching the road and have your hands ready for some to be able to react. But I feel a lot of businesses are looking at how do we streamline and remove the human element. But no, you still need to have, I talked about people, processes, and technology. It starts with people. It doesn't matter how good your cameras and locks are in your house if someone leaves the door open and no one is watching the monitor. Bad actors are looking for those, and it just takes one. And so, in terms of exploitation, we see changes in the behavior. You saw at one point people were saying, okay, they're making contact changes, so we're not going to use anybody who's had a contact change in the last 90 days. Well, they'll sit on the contact for 180 days. And if there's no inspections, well, no, they're going to run clean. They'll get a clean bill of record. They're going to monitor what loads are going in until the right one is there for the exploit. The thing is, when you think about sports, like there's rules. In us, we have laws. They don't. They have every trick that they can use, every tool that they can use. At one of the conferences I was at, I mentioned when I was up talking, like they're all in a room like us today, talking amongst each other because there's so much opportunity for them. They don't need to worry about competing with each other. They can learn from each other because there's enough there from them to exploit. So things around you talk about sold authorities, and folks will say, well, wait, you're not supposed to be able to do these things to sell authorities. Like, they're not above board doing it, and they're highly persuasive to carriers who are looking to get out. You talk about COVID. It wasn't, so when COVID happened, you had an influx of legitimate companies going into the industry because they saw, look at the profit. I just need to have a truck. I lease this truck. I can get in there and I can just start hauling. Like, oh, wait, this is really complex. I can't do that. They get out of the industry, but they still have something valuable, which is their authority that they ran clean for a year, and they get contacts that, hey, looking to sell your authority, and you have a bad actor going and purchasing that authority. Say, oh, and we need these things to transfer the ownership, and the previous carrier didn't know what was necessary or not. In fact, when I was at the Owner Operator Independent Driver Association, OIDA, presenting to them on fraud, talking to their board. One of their board members, while I was presenting on fraud, got a text message saying, hey, do you know anyone with an aged authority looking to sell? So they're looking for those who have been in the industry.
Not suspicious at all.
Oh, yeah, and that's what they're doing. And you mentioned the credentials and everything else. So then people started adding in MFA, adding security in the logins. Well, they'll buy your login, they'll buy your phone, they'll buy your email. They'll find all these ways that they can remain hidden, operating as you in there. And so this is where at Truckstop we've started, as we see the industry changing from a fraud landscape perspective, we've had to evolve and find that right balance. You can go Fort Knox, lock all doors, and the industry is going to be ground to a halt. The trucks have to keep moving. So how do you find that right thing to be continuously adapting? And as I mentioned before, we have a security and assurance team that's always back there learning, having people reporting identity issues, learning around that. And then when there is a known bad actor, taking action, both on our freight marketplace, but also on our compliance side. RMIS is our onboarding and compliance monitoring platform, and so then they'll put things in place and learning from that. But I advise our customers, like, we need to all be talking to each other, talking with us. We continuously help harden our systems in the right way and learning and adapting and adjusting. But you need to train your people, have processes for risk mitigation and tools to help reinforce the intelligence that you use to make those decisions. Because the bad actors, their one job is to steal that freight, and they are patient. And so they're always
Yeah.
out there and moving.
Recent quote I heard that was great was, "We have to be right, 1,000 times. They only need to be right once." So they just keep poking, and then right eventually it happens. And I feel like there's a disparity, and Rob and Nate, if you want to touch on that, like what your thoughts are with the level of sophistication of these, like the organizations, whether it's Truckstop, whether it's us, whether it's anybody else. We're trying to give tools to empower the industry to be able to be protected, but the level of sophistication between an organization and your mom and pop owner operator situation is so different, and you have to meet people where they're at. And I feel like there's a lot of challenge on that, or with that. So that's what we see, and we try to make it as easy as possible, to protect those businesses, because they depend on us. They want that better freight. They want to not be hacked, right? Because one bad load, that's it for an owner operator. That could be a make it or break it situation. So that's something where we think about, as far as Truckstop, what's kind of your experience there, or your users, what are some challenges that you guys have there in working with them and making it, easy to use for people who are less accustomed to, enterprise system.
The challenge that I see on a daily basis is no one thinks it's going to happen to them until it does. And by then, most of the time it's too late. Sometimes we can still help and reach out, but it's 99% of the time things that could have been preventable, or at least would have been, like, it would have been a minor thing compared to something that's super major. We partner with cybersecurity companies. Like Lockard is a really good one that we reach out to for help, because sometimes it takes more than just changing a password on a load board. Even through an MFA, there are ways they're getting around it. One of the main things that we're actually seeing, and this is not just customers or anyone, is pretty much industry wide, is when they're having those conversations behind closed doors, they're not going to LinkedIn and posting what they're doing and what they're going to do next. When we have these conversations, rightfully so, we're excited because we figure out ways to combat it, right? And then we go and we post on LinkedIn. We're literally leaving the key under the mat for those bad actors as to how we go about it next. So they now have a path. We're giving them the playbook every single time we do that. And that, from an educational standpoint, is tough to manage sometimes. But we try to do our best from different educational webinars and content to try to help with that. But it's still happening to this day. And what it's doing is, like, I look at it as we're digging a hole, because fraud, my opinion is, fraud isn't going to go away entirely, but there's things we can do to reduce it, right, and get ahead of it. We're digging a hole, and right now we're to a point where, as we're digging, someone else is throwing more dirt back in our hole that we're trying to dig out of. And if we don't stop doing that, eventually we're going to get buried. We're not going to be able to keep up with how much we're digging out.
Now, what do you guys think? Like, it used to be like double brokering was a big thing. I mean, it still happens and stuff of that nature. But what are you guys seeing on the bigger fraud piece? Because, I mean, it used to be, I don't even say used to be, it was like a few months ago, it was like, hey, they're hacking emails or doing things of that nature. Now we're hearing about people switching the sides of their trucks, putting on different, changing license plates, things of that. What has been the newest thing that you guys have heard or seen?
Well, so something that we're seeing is the old is new again. They're going back to old tactics, but phishing is still prominent, and finding ways to gain access to someone's information. A new, it's not pervasive now, but it's a new thing, a system takeover. And you think of Trojan viruses and things that can go and take over. We've seen had a couple instances of silent takeover where they're sitting watching until in the background. And this is the remote desktop. If you've used those where you have an IT person on your system, well, you have a bad actor on your system that you're not aware of, and they're watching until it gets to a point where they take over your control and they can turn off your screen and you have no clue what they're doing, and they are you now because they see things on VPNs, and other people start putting protections in place, and they're going and saying, oh, okay, well, we need to find ways of circumventing those protections. And really it's a multi-prong approach on this, and on our side in trying to figure out how do you stay ahead of that. They will go, and especially AI is helping them create sites that look identical to a legitimate site, and then phishing to direct you through, and phishing as well, so text message based phishing to direct you to a space, and hey, I got a load for you or whatever, and you go there and log in, and they got your credentials, and there's other things. So a lot of redirection, capturing of your identity to be able to use your identity, or to gain access to load information to know what needs to be picked up. They say, okay, white truck, this MC to pick up on this time. Let's get there a little earlier. Or they're going to be outside of the warehouse, the distribution center, seeing consistent traffic, and then they go and drive up. And because that's some of the problems in this, you look at, it's not just the brokers, the carriers, it's the warehouses. You got people working at the guard gate or at the dock, and they see what's going in and out. And they're measured on the turn, how quickly they can get people going through, and what are they using to check. And so as an industry, we don't have standards for a lot of this, like the TSA type of things, that here's what we go to check these pieces. So it is difficult with that, but yeah, phishing is still a very prominent one. And this is where we don't use email for MFA, use text messages. There is no foolproof way. That thinking there are foolproof ways creates fools of all of us, really. And also, but to Nate's comment on after the fact protecting yourself, it's like putting a seatbelt on after the accident. It's too late. So having things in place and being prepared. And back to my comment on automation, we have lost touch of the relationship, having human contact with others. And so it is difficult. Everyone is anonymous then, and knowing who is who. But it's difficult in this industry with the capacity as it is right now, and you're managing all those pieces. But as this industry changes, capacity is going to be even tighter. Brokers are going to need to go even faster. But this fraud that we're seeing right now is the new normal. Just bet that it's not going to change. Hope that it does.
Yeah, I think it's going to accelerate if because people are going to try to just circumnavigate the checks that they're doing. Because if you have that one customer that you have a hot load for and you have to get a truck in there, and it might be your first load, it could be like, you maybe had like a service failure on like the past two, so you have to do this one. This is your last chance. Or, it's so important. They're going to a trade show, they're going somewhere really special, or it's for an event. They're going to just book anybody that they can find. Because that's what I like when I was a broker. That's what I dealt with in 2018, and then in the beginning of like mid 2020 when the market was so hot. You just any carrier you have, you're just booking them, and they're going to say, well, can we bypass this guy in the system so I can put him on this load because I haven't gotten a call in 3 or 4 hours and he's the only one. And these guys are going to know that, and then they're going to sit there. And I think it's really interesting what you said, where they're watching people in the background on what their systems are doing. So they're knowing what loads these guys are taking. It sounds like for the broker and for the carrier, they know all the information that the rate con it has without having it. And they can just essentially duplicate that in their system and create templates and then hand that in and then steal the freight. And that's horrifying.
Yeah. The mindset that, and this is when I've talked with sales teams for brokerages and stuff, is just imagine that you're walking down dark streets with dark alleys all the time. You need to have eyes wide open and be the things that you use to go and verify that you can trust someone, that in the real world, we all live in the real world, but outside of the office walls, you have intuition. Like, you need to apply that to what you're doing here. And I would say, okay, you have your mom's money, all of her money of $200,000. She's saying, hey, can you give this to one person to hold for you for 3 days? Like, would you trust giving that to this person that you're talking to through email or whatever? Like, if you don't, there's a reason for that, because that's what you're doing here. When you're booking a load, it's a $230,000 load paid upon delivery and going through that. So there's these aspects of this. You need to apply your human nature to what you're doing, having technology to support that. And for us, as we talk about what we do, we have a load board, we have other tools, but having a highly connected system from a community standpoint and technology with partners like Verified Carrier to give our customers with options to help them in their vetting. Because we want to focus in our area and then leverage folks like yourself to have that available for customers, especially like there's certain levels of verification necessary based upon the sensitivity or risk of what's being moved. You can't always go through full check of an underwriting type of level of process, so a bank level verification. But if you're moving a targeted or high risk load, you're going to need to take some additional steps, because the bad actors, not every load is the same. And we talk about double brokering. If they steal a load, they're going to look at what is being moved, what is the commodity. Is it more profitable for me to rebroker this, to deliver this, or to steal this? And so they're going to be going through and looking at each one. They have all those tools, and then they will do the double brokering of that, and then steal the payment on that. But they are always looking for opportunities. And back to talk about desperation of the industry, once this capacity starts changing, they will hit you when your people are desperate. End of day, on a Friday before a holiday. So right now, this is right prime time, because today, we call it Fraud Friday, our security team does, because they know that you're thinking about the holidays, you're thinking, but you still have loads moving. People are going to make exceptions, and they're going to exploit that. So it is, you got to always be prepared, and this is some things I've talked with folks on the shipper side as well. Train your warehouses on, hey, this is high risk period of time. Look out for these kind of signals. Be extra diligent, and from a process standpoint, have an escalation path back to the safety belt ahead of time. Like, hey, if you don't know, if something doesn't seem right, you know who to go to with internally. And same thing from a law enforcement, and this is a lot of fraud conferences will talk about this. If there is an incident, you know what you're going to do. You know what information is necessary, who to contact, because time is of the essence on that as well. So just all of us working together is critical.
Yeah, 100%. And if you call something in, it's much easier to say we figured it out, and then have them stop looking, or you're on CargoNet reporting it, as opposed to you think you're going to try to figure it out for 2 days and they say it's delayed, and you feel like something's up, and it's 3 days in, and then you find out it's a hostage situation, or like the load by then might already be gone, so they were just stalling for time. So yeah, I think that having that urgency, having a specific plan of like, hey, your truck got stolen right now, like what do you do, who do you call, right? I think laying those things out crucial. And the unfortunate thing is, I would say not just some of the time, most of the time, the people that are closest to the freight are the least trained on what to do. In the organization, I think that's on all of us as an industry to kind of keep pushing it, empower people, give them things that they can take back to their organizations. Hopefully viewers here can glean this information or be able to share it, because I think it's crucial, because that's how you protect it. Because when it's Friday afternoon before a holiday weekend, it's not, what are you here for? It's, are you here for the whatever? Because we just got to get these last few pallets off the dock, and let's call it a day, boys. And that's they know that. They're really good. I just want to say, like, for continuing ed, all of us could get better, but these guys are like spot on. The way that they train, the way that everybody knows within their organizations what they do. I think even at Tapa, it was the representative from Brazil. He was like, this one organization got busted. They found their ledgers. They literally had P&Ls of like the different divisions, from their carjacking thing with the director in charge of it, from their cargo theft, from their whatever, the drug operation. And he's like, they basically have
org
like
chart.
CPAs working for them. Yeah, it's a straight up org chart with different director level. I mean, they're professionals, and they're ruthless about their execution. Like they are.
Well, and they have people working for them that do not know they're working for a criminal organization. They have call centers. They have salespeople because they're running this as a brokerage or something. They don't know, because you have people that don't know the industry coming in. And same thing when you're hiring people in the industry. That talk about intuition. Intuition is based upon experience, and how do you build experience without experiencing something? So that education, keeping it simple, of the two to three things, like three things top of to look out for. But the problem is, back to what Nathan mentioned, then someone posts that, hey, here are the three things to look out for. And then you have someone that said, okay, I got to make sure my hair's clean cut, that I don't wear a hoodie, and I don't wear sunglasses, and I have this information. I got the right amount of things to not send a flag. So it is extremely difficult, because they're going to continue to adapt and hide amongst the legitimate ones. And then the industry goes and changes the other way, and it makes it extremely difficult for legitimate truck drivers to operate. So it is not an easy thing, and it is always going to be evolving. We have to always be working together, and this is where it's important, from technology providers, service providers, brokers, carriers, everyone working together, making this the least hospitable place for the bad actors, because they never go away. They just find other waters, and just keep working together to strengthen and harden this industry.
Yeah, Rob, I think you wanted to add a thought.
Yeah, well, I just thought it was interesting when you said like the guys. I think the processes are a big thing. What we hear now versus when I started was a lot of people are using email. Like you said, intuition, picking up the phone, calling these guys, having a conversation, feeling them out. From your conversation is a big piece. And then I thought what you said was interesting too about the commodities. We talk to people. I mean, we know some like electronics, copper, food and bev, seafood, meat, they seem to be really hot. But even the low, like if you find a buyer, any commodity could be a hot commodity for you. And like you said, these, like, what Andre said, these organizations, they have P&Ls. They have probably people sourcing like, hey, you need car parts for all these Chevys. Okay, well, these guys are like low on like guarding everything, or on the theft. Like they don't think they're ever going to get stolen from. So we can get this for you, and we'll sell it to you for X amount, and then we'll make this, and nobody will ever suspicious. Like we won't be suspicious of anything.
Well, and they also know what effort will be taken to try to recover it. Sometimes recovering results in destruction of whatever the product was, and so they know that you're likely not going to go and do it, especially if it's lower cost. So they start doing volume in unprotected territories of the U.S. You kind of like the Walgreens situation in California, where the people just walk in and can walk out with goods because the client employees were told do not go and approach them. And so you're going to see continuous shifting and adjustment. In some of this, you'll have small crimes, and there's also, depending upon what is stolen and the value of what's stolen, persecution of that or prosecution of that is higher. So they're going to stay underneath the radar in some of these areas, and they just go do the volume play or double broker these things. So it is always evolving. There isn't a, hey, here's the one thing to go and protect this, cover your front door. Like, no, they're going to find your side door. They're going to find the back door. They're going to find all these other ways to exploit.
Yeah. And speaking of exploit too, I mean, a lot of the carriers that we have on like our customer advisory boards at Truckstop, when they hand me their email address, it's not a work email. It's a personal that they use for work. So if they're accessing that email, they know all about that carrier. They know what they've opted into, if they like how desperate they are, if they have been applying for things, and they take advantage of that too. So they're taking advantage of really good people and putting them in really tough positions. And so that's why we try to be as educational as possible about email scams. On our RMIS, in our security, they send out, hey, this person is trying to act as us with this email address, and we will send out every single time that there's any sort of change or anything like that, because we're trying to do our part. I'll also add in too, Truckstop's committed and has been committed to try to resolve as much fraud as possible. and do some, things that are kind of outside the realm of what we would normally do. Like, we just hired a strategic fraud advisor. You guys might know him, Mr. Dale Prax, from an
We have met a
educational
time or two
side.
before.
Have you met a time? Okay, perfect. And he's already jumping in, educating our customers. I mean, he was in Atlanta, educating and kind of going through some training to be proactive instead of reactive. And we're not going to stop doing that kind of thing if it's going to help the industry and educate our customers as well.
One
Yeah,
thing to
that's
add on
great
that
because
is, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, because, from Verified Carrier, Rob and I, we were in DC with the TIA. There's two pieces of legislation that are being pushed. Rob actually was there with Dale in Jacksonville, speaking to their bars. So, I mean, it takes everybody working together. And I think Dale, that man knows his CFRs
Yes.
probably better than I know the back of my hand. So, I mean, he's a great voice for the industry in that respect.
Yeah, no, I think it's great that you mentioned Rob and Dale, and it's not just protecting our own system, but protecting the industry, working with law enforcement, federal and local, working with legislature, because part of this, and you talk about the prosecution, getting teeth to behind this, and also getting, because the FMCSA with the licensing, it's federally funded, and so you have jurisdictions and you have regulations and what's being paid for in there, and building that awareness on what this means. And so there's a lot going on around all this, and it's important for all of us to be working together. And we work with other similar technology providers as well. Like, how do we all help this? And we help the industry is going to help ourselves there, and working together is critically important.
And I guess just closing thoughts. If you were to give like one piece of advice, in addition to using Truckstop and Verified Carrier, obviously, I would say personally, for me, when we're talking about all this phishing and everything that's happening, like when I get an email from Capital One or Chase with a message, I never want to click on that button to open that message from the email, right? Like for me, I'm like, that's cool. I'm going to go to the Chase app and I'm going to look for a notification in there. I'm going to log in and then I'll check any alerts or whatever. That'll be like my piece of advice. Like if you are an owner operator and you get an email from any company you work with, right? Like just go to their website by yourself, log in. Google can save your password. You can log in now with your like fingerprint. It's great. So that's been a huge help. Is there anything, and this is not just specific to your product, but like, is there any advice that you would, if you were to speak with an owner operator and just say, hey, if I could tell you one thing, like what would that be?
If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And as soon as you get that gut feeling that something is off, don't click on the link. Go to the website, just like you said, right? And double check. But honestly, if someone is offering you a rate that is way higher than what the lane normally is, which you can find on truckstop.com, then
Nate, what are you talking about? That New York to Atlanta for $8,000? This is going to pay for all my holiday gifts, and I'm going to take my wife on vacation.
It's probably too good to be true. So just double check, stay proactive, don't have to be reactive.
Well, and that applies to both carriers and brokers. So you're that carrier or your broker on a Friday with a load that needs to move, and you got someone coming in that say, "Hey, I'll take it, no questions asked, at this rate." Like, "Oh, this is a really good deal," and you're not thinking about are they right or not. And it's verify then trust, not trust then verify. And you just look at AI and you go on the web, all the things that you see out there that look great, and how many fake products out there. There's a lot of fake entities out there. And it's one thing. Final thing I'll say on this is, it's not just the load in the truck that is at risk. You have, I've heard of instances where a carrier's family they were being extorted and putting their family at risk because the bad actor had access to all of their information, listed off their family members, where they all live. They will find ways of taking advantage of you. And you mentioned Brazil, your life as well could be at risk in these situations. So it's just open eyes. It is not just the technology. There is no silver bullet, no foolproof solution. The shoes may protect your feet, but your eyes are going to protect your body. So you got to make sure that you are working together open eyes, communicating with each other. It starts with your people. Have processes that are easy to follow, that are consistent, and have exception handling processes that are clear and defined ahead of time. And then technology. Partner with technology providers who can help reinforce your people and your processes. Verified Carrier, you guys are doing great things, and we're so excited to be partnered with you. So excited that we have that now available in RMIS for any RMIS subscriber there. You can then see the verification status of carriers, but multiple prongs. You need to work together. There isn't one thing that will solve it all. You need to take multiple approaches.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
use
And
it
Rob?
early and often too, right? Sorry to interrupt, but like I don't know about you guys, but when I was younger, I thought that stop, drop, and roll was something I was going to have to apply to like my everyday life multiple times, right? And then it never happened, luckily. But now I know if I were to catch on fire, what I'm supposed to do. It's the exact same concept.
Yeah, I would say, and just use your gut. Your gut's everything. Your, like you guys said, your intuition. Use your gut. Pick up the phone. Have conversations. It'll get you far.
Yeah. No, all solid advice. Sean, Nate, Rob, thank you all for jumping on today and sharing about, wealth of knowledge, tons of different, experiences and things that people can actually take and, use with their businesses. So, thank you again, for everybody tuning in. Really appreciate it. And, tune in for the next episode to, again, get another vantage point from what's happening in the supply chain and what you can do about it.
Thank you, Andre.